dear ones, indigo roses, you beautiful, shining, scintillating souls. Oh, lovely to have you here. This is Alyce Dylan. You're at the Indigo Rose Lounge, and I'm your host. And today I thought we'd look at, a little question I hear quite a lot. What for? Yeah, what for? Why did I do this? Why did I come here? Why did I come to this human manifestation? And when I say to you, well done for making it to here, I don't just mean this lifetime. I mean all the lifetimes, everything. So we are source in the beginning, and then we shoot off source like a spark of a bonfire. And there we are, and we spend ages in the mineral kingdom learning about atoms and chemistry and how that all works. And in solid state or even in liquid state, we spend time in the mineral world, and then we move on to the vegetable, and then we learn photosynthesis, and we learn about movement and growth, and we acquire those capacities and abilities, and then off we go. We are an amoeba for a while, and then we go into fishes and birds, and I don't know what the order is. I don't know in the levels of advancement if a dolphin is ahead of an elephant or not, or maybe those are just two different pathways. I was discussing with one of my students the other day about how that journey must mold us in some way. There must be frequency that we acquire through whatever mineral path we take, whatever vegetable path we take. I feel like I was a redwood. I feel like I speak to redwoods and big ancient trees. I have a resonance there. Sometimes we just identify better with certain plants or certain animals. We just know there's a knowing in us, like I was you. I know you. I know what that feels like. You watch a bird take off from a roof. Yes, I remember that. I remember what that feels like. Maybe it's diving in the ocean and you say, I remember what that feels like. So we travel through all of these lifetimes. We acquire familiarity with walking, breathing, perambulating, running, jumping. We learn even a degree of emotion. We learn the ego states. We learn various elements of this existence, all to come into this human experience. And we know from all of the spiritual texts that we do that so that we can get into this human experience and acquire a soul, and that soul is eternal. And once we've got the soul, we're a shoe-in. We're a lock for the rest of it. Unless, of course, we completely sell our souls to some nefarious character. Anyway, but we've got a soul, we made it to here. Yay. And in this day and age, if you're an indigo, an empath, sensitive person, ADHD, neurodivergent, you're one of us, then you not only came to this human experience with 5 senses, but with your additional spiritual perception. I've had this conversation with you guys about words before and naming. And I had this thought the other day that we should just call ourselves SCI, SCI, spiritually connected individuals. It's kind of like leaning into the sci-fi thing. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Because SPI, spiritually perceptive individuals, I don't know, it's not working. I think Psi, spiritually connected individuals. Let me know what you think. Anyway, so here we are, spiritually connected individuals. Not only do we have an animal element and a human element, but we also know that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Why would we do that? Obviously, there's stuff that's valuable in this human experience. There's obviously things that are important to learn on a spiritual level for our path forward. What is there? What is the epitome of learning? Well, I don't think it's trigonometry. Although some mathematicians are going to be upset because they're going to think that has a whole bunch of spiritual implications, and I'm sure it does. But I think I got to go with love. I think I've got to go with love. We've got to be here to know love. We've got to be here to explore love. Look at the human experience. We're born into a loving, ideally, We're born into a loving environment with two parents who feed us and clothe us and take care of us and look after us. Then we make friends and we learn different expressions of love. And then we grow up and we learn partnership, and that's another expression of love. And then we have children. We learn another expression of love. And we work through every phase of our lives can be labeled by the kind of love we explore in that phase. It's all about love. It's all about love and connectedness, but how will we remain connected to people who are quite crazy and really not pleasant to be around? Well, as human beings, we can't. It's illogical. It's just nuts. But as spiritual beings, having a human experience, we can recognize I'm spirit, and that crazy person over there is also spirit. And yeah, there's some crooked stuff going on with their human experience, but I can love them. I can love them. I can, because they're spirit and I'm spirit. That's how we get to it. And that's where the lovely ideas like unity and diversity, and that's where all those ideas do have validity, when we recognize that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. But in the same way, we can also look around and say, look, but there's 30 other people who are also spirits having human experiences. And if this one person is a threat to all 30 of them, then the love expression, the most loving choice here, protection of the 30 people. And protection of the 30 people might mean trying to, get the crazy person to think of things differently in whatever way. So love really has a completely different application. Mankind got a bit carried away with love, with, what's his name? Saint Valentine, with, pretty hearts and cards and things. Love now, when you hear the word love, you associate it so much with those things. And there's teddy bears and roses and that. Just one little spark of love. It's one little inkling of the application of love. It's more really about procreation of, let's be honest, true love, real love. It's about just our connectedness with everything. It's about sitting in nature and being in love with nature. It's about finding your truest expression of love in the world, finding what you love to do, finding what gets you out of bed in the morning with glee and yay and yummy, that expression of love, finding out what I love to do. What is it that I'm uniquely put together to express into the world that will make this planet a better place? Not altruistically, but because that's my purpose. There's this wonderful clip I saw the other day where this young man actually is talking about how a bird doesn't go to birdie school and how a seed doesn't go to gardening school. It just blossoms where it is, finds the right conditions, and it blossoms. Birds just know. And here we are, humans. What do we know? We know how to do this. We know how to be human. We know how to be here. Just like the birds know how to be birds, and the cats know how to be cats, and seeds know how to be seeds. We know intrinsically there's something in us. It's in our DNA. It's in our system. And really, our main focus in life just needs to be to find all the obstacles and the barriers that have been set up, either in our ancestral learning or in society. All the barriers that have been set up against love, and remove them. Because love isn't always teddy bears and roses, Love is sometimes the harsh truth. Love is sometimes knowing that a member of your family is a narcissist. Okay? And finding a way to love them anyway, knowing that narcissism is a switch that gets flipped in them as a child, and they're now stuck in that paradigm. And so how can we love them anyway? And sometimes that means the only way to love them is on the other side of the world. Sometimes loving them means, okay, one-way ticket to wherever. But finding that capacity, finding that way to still at least very least is to preserve the love. How can I love this person? Well, I can't love them in person, but I can perhaps love them far away from them. And that would serve everybody, right? Because then that is rooted in love, it's anchored in love, and it's the most loving expression. So, why did we come to this human experience? It's got to be about love. It's got to be. Came here to love. And part of that is alignment. So, the more we align, and this is particularly now I'm speaking specifically to the indigos, empaths, sensitives, etc., all us spiritually connected individuals, what do we need to know about love and why we came and what we're here to do and why all these impulses? And I think you'll find that every guidance we receive, everything that we download from our true selves, our spirit selves, works us in the path of love, directs us in the path of love, either to find what we love, to express what we love, to find loving ways to exist and be. All our guidance. When I'm working with others, their fairies show up, and their guidance is always to let me know how this person can remove these obstacles to love in themselves. So love is always the goal. Any expression, any exploration, love is always the goal. And ultimately it comes down to plugging into the source of all love. And we do that by loving. If we love source, then what comes back at us is so much greater. If we find a way, if we find our connection to source, whatever your path looks like, whatever journey you take, if you find a way to love source, you will receive a deluge of love. Love will just come at you like monsoon season in India. It will just, love will pour down, and then you harness that love and you give it out to everyone around you. You fill up. It's the most satisfying way to be living. It's just to love, to find ways to love. And all the spiritual writings in the world also have told everybody across the planet this, in one or another ways, that love is important. Love is the goal. Love is where you need to be focused. So, we're on this path to love in this human experience. And so we, as the indigos, as the spiritually connected individuals, are closer to that knowing and to actualizing that purpose than five-sensed individuals, because we are connected with our spirit selves. We are linked in, receiving information from our spirit selves all the time. And our spirit selves is the element of us that is closest to source, is at a higher frequency, and therefore is closest to love. And so we have the ability to really connect and then receive love and then give that out and be an example to the whole of humanity of what living in love really looks like. So how do we do that? Well, our first goal is alignment. So physical, emotional, intellectual selves. We've been in other podcasts through the idea of what happens when we're in childhood, and we tend to isolate parts of ourselves that we feel interfere with our survival. Usually our emotional selves, as indigos, we usually put the emotional self in the basement because it's the emotional self that's so expressive, feels too much, and is so connected or feels so connected. So we need to find alignment again. Physical self, emotional self, and intellectual self. Alignment. Am I present in this moment? So when I show up, my physical self is there. Yeah, check. Is it okay? Is it kind of distracting me? Is it unwell? Maybe not so great for the alignment. How's my emotional self doing? I've let it out the basement. I've reintegrated my emotional self. I've come to terms with my emotions, and I've aligned it with my intellectual self. And nobody's in the driver's seat. There's not one element of me at any time that is completely in the driver's seat. Just like any superhero movie, If it's a challenge that the physical self specifically needs to deal with, then the physical self will become dominant and will deal. And if it's a situation where the emotional self is needed, then that will become dominant for that time. But in a resting state, are you in alignment? Is all of you communicating? Because that's how we're designed to function best. We're not designed to function as a brain driving around a body with emotional heart self stuck in the basement. That's not a full experience, and we're not going to achieve wisdom that way. And it's a bit traumatic, honestly. When you exclude your emotional self from the party, it really does sit in the basement and cry all the time. So you need to reintegrate the emotional, intellectual, physical selves. You need to bring them all back into the same room. They need to forgive each other. You need to do this whole healing process, but it's doable. And once you're in alignment, your spirit self can take up habitation. Wow, there's a leap. So your spirit self created this human experience to have this human experience. Now, this human experience comes with a lot of detritus. It comes with ancestral learning. It comes with parental situation, a family situation, goings on of life. But the spirit self wants to have this human experience, wants to inhabit this physical form. But it needed to grow it up, needed to, there it was at the moment of conception, gave it life. Now it wants to grow it up and get in and have a human experience. But if the vehicle is full of detritus, if the vehicle is full of, you're mad at your neighbor, you're mad at this one, you're working too hard, you're angry at the world, the frequency is too low. Spirit self can't take up habitation when you're living at anger or apathy or yuck. The spirit self can only truly get in when you get up there to bliss, love, and joy. And then your spirit self joins you. And then we become superheroes. Hello. And that's the path. You know it is. Come on. Listen. Listen to my words. You did not come here to suffer and die. You came here to create a vehicle through which you could have human experience, acquire a soulful eternity, but also learn. And your spirit is waiting to come home. It's waiting to inhabit the being you are. Do you see that? And it only can do that when your human experience is elevated up there in bliss, love, joy. It's the only way it can. And then watch out, world. The spirit self takes up residence, and then all of this stuff becomes effortless. All of it, from manifestation through to knowing, through to, it's the capacity we have. And this hump of evolution of humanity is the hump where we're learning this. This is the thing we're learning. This leap in evolution. And it's a specific theory in evolution that some white coats thought or have a theory. Not that they ever write about anything, but they have a theory that evolution happens little but inches at a time. And then the other ones have another theory that life tickers on, and then suddenly there are great leaps in evolution. And the last 200 years has been a great leap. And I think sometimes evolution is directly proportionate to the threat. And the shiny bums, so maybe the shiny bums are to thank for increasing the threat level. And so humanity's had to take a leap forward. But our leap forward is into the understanding that we are spiritual beings. Not maybe theoretically. Actually, we are spiritual beings having human experience. Here we go. And allowing that to complete. Because that was always the goal. To create the human form, to raise the human form, and then spirit self takes up habitation. And with the spirit self in residence, then life gets supernatural. Then life gets, we've seen it briefly in certain manifestations in life. Go into that. That's another day's story. But there we go, folks. So that's what you're here to do. It's a huge ask. It's a huge ask. But I know that when you stood there at the brink, going to dive into this human experience, and you Given a choice. There we go. There's the white picket fence life. It'll be blah, but you'll get through it. There's the big challenging life. 100% chance of difficulty, but absolute 100% chance of great reward. I know you would have picked the great reward side, because I know I would have too. Yeah? And so here we are. Here we are, on the leading edge of the evolution of mankind. What are we going to do about it? Well, we're going to love. Always.